Hello, everyone. This is Pamela Topchan, your host for Holistic Connections Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And I will have my guests introduce themselves and share a little bit about what you do in the holistic healing world, please.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Samantha Brior. I am an aura reader, coach, and educator. I also do spiritual life coaching. I'm a healer, and it's one thing that I truly love. I think it's a very unique way to help people understand where they are at, emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically. And it's just a fun, creative way that I can connect with others on a deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I imagine that all those things sort of work together. The coaching, the education, the reading of auras. And also, did I see that you're a hypnotherapist as well? Is that
I
on
am
your?
certified in
Okay.
hypnotherapy, yes,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I can really see all of those working so well together. First of all, how did you first get interested in doing this kind of work?
So I invoked on my spiritual journey about 2.5 years ago. Looking back on my life, it was one of those times where I truly do not know how I got through what I did.
Yeah.
I think I was just mostly in survival mode. And I really started to, throughout that process, go down a spiritual path because I had tried the modalities of therapy, medications for helping with anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
they all serve their purpose. But I really was trying to find something that would be a little bit more natural that can help ground me in a lot of turbulent waters that I was trying to navigate. So I started down my spiritual journey and I was very curious. I read a lot of books because I'm a big reader. I
Mm-hmm.
read a lot of spiritual books by all different authors across the board. And aura reading was never something that crossed my path. And it was interesting because one day I went to a store to just go pick up a wireless charger, and I came across a book on auras. And I stopped and I got full body chills, but I was like, yeah, that's all right. Like I just kept on walking. I should have listened because I got home and I tried to use that charger and the prong to plug it in was stuck. So it was like that was my cue. I needed to go back to the store.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I should have listened the first
So
time.
funny.
So I
That's
go
great.
back, I pick up the book, and I start reading a little bit about it. And I just in the middle of it, I got up to use the restroom and I looked in the mirror and I could have sworn I started seeing colors.
Wow.
And just to make sure that I wasn't losing my mind, I started practicing over the next several weeks to see if was that just a one-off chance.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was able to see them more and more. And at the time, I was actually working with a guide who was helping me through my spiritual awakening. And
Wow.
I called her and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I think I could see auras. Like I've been practicing. I think this is what's happening." And she's like, "All right, I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna put you on the spot." And like I just was not expecting that. And I was able to see the same colors that another reader and healer had seen on her prior. So it was one of those things where she confirmed it. I started doing it more and more. And prior to this, I have a background working in mental health. And
Mm.
I think it was one of those things where my spirit team surprised me in my clairvoyance opening and being able to use this because they knew I would use it in a responsible way.
Yeah.
In that mental health background, being able to deliver the messages in a way that was respectful, that held space, and that we had time to process if there are any things that came about that may be very difficult to navigate as far as what the aura can show.
Do you have to like say, okay, I'm going to give a person an aura reading, and then you have to sort of like tune into their energy or look for it, or is it something like when you're in the store, do you sometimes see like colors around people.
I can turn it off if I want to, and I usually, if I'm out in public, I do just because it can be incredibly
Sure.
overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but yes, before I have a reading with anybody, I always meditate on their
Hmm.
energy beforehand, just so I kind of have a better idea of how the appointment's going to go. For example, I was working with a client last week that right before we started to get into anything, I was like, we're going to get into the colors, I promise. But there's something that we
But
need to
first,
talk about.
yeah.
Yes. And like it was a whole type of like energy clearing that we needed to address and really work through some things first before we got into anything. So it's very helpful for me to meditate on energy beforehand and then
Yeah.
go into appointments and then go from there as far as what we cover and what we
Yeah.
investigate. But yes, you can turn it off. And I really think because there's a lot of people out there who do want to learn about reading auras. And
Hmm.
the thing of it is you auras are not just to be read through clairvoyance. You know, some people can
Hmm.
feel the energy through clairsentience.
Yeah.
They may be able to hear the energy through clairaudience with the different
Wow.
frequencies. So there's many different ways that you can actually read auras depending on the different clairs. So it doesn't just have to be clairvoyance.
So interesting. I've never heard that before. You look very young. I don't know how old you are, but I was raised in the 70s and was a teenager in the 80s. And it was kind of like a thing, almost like a pickup line where, like, do you want me to read your aura? Or, I can see by your aura that you're blah, 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 almost like a pickup line kind of a thing. So, of course, I have learned more since then, but that's like my first introduction to auras, and, and yeah, so that's really interesting how far it has come, though, I think in the public eye, at least in the United States anyway, because it was this sort of cheesy kind of a thing. And then now it's come to a point of people are helping others on a spiritual path and a healing path and on a self-discovery path. And, people through reading auras is so many benefits. I mean,
Absolutely. And I love the
amazing.
fact, yeah, that like it was a pickup line back in the 70s. Because I mean, if somebody came up to you and was like, you have a beautiful aura, it's your energy. I mean, your
Right.
aura is your energy you emanate. Like when you walk into a place and you feel like, oh, this place has got a bad vibe, like
Right.
you're picking up on the aura. So
Yeah.
if people are saying like, oh, you have a beautiful aura, take that as a compliment because it means that you're emitting wonderful energy.
Yeah. So a question I have about auras is I know that they can change depending on what's going on in their life. Is that correct that the colors that you see can change as the person is going through life changes? Like,
Absolutely.
okay, okay, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And this actually just sparked the creativity to publish my first children's book.
Oh,
Because,
congratulations.
thank you, your aura can change depending on the people, places,
Mm.
environments that you're in. It's not just your thoughts, it's the situations that you surround yourself with and the people that you surround yourself with. It all has an impact. And that's why it could go so in depth because I may be doing a reading for somebody that is emanating like beautiful, bright colors, but then all of a sudden I see these darker colors that are surrounding. Come to find out, it's not their energy, it's somebody
Wow.
else's energy that's impacting them or an environment that's negatively having an impact. But your aura can change so quickly. And
Yeah.
I always like to tell people as like an indicator to get an aura reading done. If we do an aura reading and you are feeling pretty good because like you feel your energy
Hmm.
vibrationally, if you are feeling like you're in a pretty good place and you're navigating through life and there's nothing that is really hindering you, that's a good cue to know that like you're probably energetically in a really good place and keep that up. But if there are things that are shifting for you, if you're starting to feel a little down and can't quite figure out what's possibly going on, that's when I always say them, let's hop on a call. Let's figure out what's
Yeah.
going on and see if there's anything that's possibly blocking what's coming through. I personally was going through a very hard time in my life, and there were things that I was not aware of that were actually
Mm,
in my aura that
yeah.
I was very glad that I was able to see, because I needed to do several, energetic clearings and be mindful. And there are a lot of things that people can do themselves to help, take care and protect their aura, but it's something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Whatever you are surrounding yourself with, it does have an energetic effect on you, just, as
Yeah.
long as you are aware.
Yeah, when you think of auras as not just the colors that you emit and you think of it as energy, then of course it makes sense that, you are in a bad situation in your life or you've had some traumatic experiences, or of course it's going to show up energetically. And then also then that relates through your aura. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So thank you for putting it that way because that helps me to better understand it and the listeners and viewers too. So that's great. So
Yes,
thank
and
you.
like, yeah, and just a side note to that, the people that are most susceptible to taking on the energies of others are the empaths,
Right.
the intuitives, the natural healers, the ones that really see the best in people, the ones that overgive, because it's just that energy is
And they're
just so
too open.
magnetic and caring. It's like an open vessel. So
Yeah.
just if you are one of those people, be mindful of that.
Yeah. And I bet you can tell that when you give somebody a reading, you can probably tell, oh my goodness, you're taking on all kinds of other energy that is not your own. Yeah. Since it's an individual thing, you work with people one on one and not necessarily in groups, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And are you working with people virtually or is it all just in person?
So I can do virtually in person, and in person, it's mostly virtually that I do now.
Okay.
I do work in groups. Like the one
Hmm.
thing that I do offer is aura parties. It's kind of
Oh,
like,
fun.
if you think of like somebody that hires like a tarot reader for a
Yeah.
party, like I do aura parties and group readings, but I always do them one-on-one just
Yeah.
because of you never know what's going to come through. And it's just a
Mm,
it's a privacy thing. I never want to put somebody in a
yeah.
situation where I have to relay information that may make somebody else uncomfortable. So it's always just one-on-one, but I can do it in a group setting too.
Yeah. And then so I imagine, like you said, almost like, we have all heard of like tarot readers going to parties and that. And then they're like off in a little corner or maybe even in another room while the party's
Yep,
going on. And then people just come in one by one. Yeah. And get
exactly.
their reading. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you offering services that like, okay, we're going to do spiritual coaching or we're going to do, hypnotherapy or we're going to do an aura reading, or is it kind of all mixed together? And then how do you decide how to work with somebody?
Yeah, so I think it changes so rapidly. In the very beginning, I certainly like to get a feel for what's going on in a person's
Right.
life. And I kind of tailor it from there as far as, do we need to do more energetic clearing? Do we need to bring in more hypnotherapy? Do we possibly need to concentrate more on the aura? It kind of varies as far
Yeah.
as what I will incorporate in. And sometimes we do the same things back to back, and other times it can be completely different. I really love to just let the person on the other end explain to me what it is that's going on, and I kind of just feel it out for what I feel like would be the best possible solution
Yeah.
in that moment in time. Because I think what can happen is, if you kind of try to plan ahead for what the path is that you want to go down, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a monkey wrench thrown in there, or something's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Right,
And the
right.
thing is, we have to be flexible, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting to see from the time that somebody starts till like the end of it, just how much they are able to handle situations differently with all the tools
Yeah.
and knowledge that they attain and just more at peace and more calm they feel.
Nice, nice. So is it typical to work with somebody over a few sessions or during amount of time, or is it more typical to have this big session or work with whatever comes up and then that's kind of it unless they come back to you, or how does that work?
I would say depending on the life circumstances. If
Okay.
there is a lot of stuff that's going on and I can feel that it's very heavy emotionally for the person to navigate, then
Mhm.
certainly I want to work with them more times than less. But if it's just, a minor transition that's
Hmm.
going on, and a lot of the times I will say that I find a lot of people are just looking for clarity.
Yeah.
They intuitively know what's going on and they know how to navigate it, but it's more just like the clarity that I'm providing for them and just a little bit of like kind of like a pep talk coaching, so to speak.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, like I think we don't realize how intuitive we really are as
Hmm.
ourselves. And it's easy to forget that because like life has its ways of just pulling us away from remembering that like we have all the tools inside of us to navigate what we are going through, but at
Yeah.
times we get disconnected from it. And it's just that coming back together and remembering that is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything that you want your clients to know or you wish that your clients knew before they started with you or before they had a session with you? Is there, like, especially for like an aura reading, if you're doing it through Zoom, do you want them to have like a clear background or does it even matter? Or does it matter what clothes they're wearing or anything like that? What would you like them to know before they reach out to you or before they have a session with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, doing an aura reading before someone reaches the age of 16 is not recommended, just because
Yeah.
the aura is still trying to develop. So
Yeah.
if you are younger than 16, I'm more than likely going to be like, come back in a year,
Yeah.
come back in a year, and then we can do that. Clothes do not matter. However, I will say, just as a pro tip, with clothing. I'm not saying throw out the little black dress or anything of that nature. I personally, I love black. I have it on today. But for energy wise, if you are trying to attract certain energies, it does help with your clothing. So, wear the color of the energy you're wanting to radiate. So, if
Mm.
you're wanting to bring in more love, pink is a great color to wear. If you're wanting to bring in more balance, green is a great color to wear. So colors in the sense of like wearing them during a reading do not matter much at all.
Okay.
As far as like the background, I do prefer to do it against neutral color backgrounds,
Yeah.
just because I have found that if there is a darker color, it can kind of skew the colors because what happens with aura readings with the colors is a moody blue will have a very different meaning than a powder blue. And if
Ah,
there is a
yeah.
darker background, sometimes it's hard to decipher which color that actually
Sure.
is. So that's why a neutral tone background works best in that regard.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, what has surprised you most doing this work?
I think some of just the little nuances that I am able to pick up on, and I'll give a perfect example and story of this. I was doing a reading for somebody, and they were just not feeling the best.
Mm.
Mentally, they were going through a rough patch, and there was this little pocket of powder blue that just like ever so slightly was
Aw.
peeking its way through the emotional division. And I had asked, do you by any chance take part in any creativity and do anything creative? Because there's this little pocket of blue that is like wanting to come through, almost as if like, hey, I'm here. hey, I'm here. And like,
Yeah.
I have to bring it to your attention in case you're not aware of it. And the client was just like, oh my gosh, like, I used to be very creative when I was younger, and I haven't dabbled in it for a really
Mm.
long time. And I've been thinking about getting back into it.
Oh,
And it was just like, your soul wants that. Like,
yeah.
please,
It's
please,
still
by all
trying to come
means.
through. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Let your soul be creative. I think it's going to be a catalyst for you to help. So it's very interesting little things that come through. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times too, when I'm doing a meditation with somebody, and I'm reading colors, they're actually able to, when I tell them what colors are coming through, they're able to, oh my gosh, I saw those colors in my mind's eye. So it's
Yeah.
like we're picking up on each other's energy while I'm reading. So it's fascinating, some of the
Yeah.
things that happen.
Yeah. Sounds like it for sure. So we should mention your Instagram.
Imaginative house.
The logo is behind you. So yeah. So anybody watching on YouTube, there it is. But there are people that are just going to be listening on the podcast platforms. So you have a TikTok, you have a Linktree. We just mentioned your Instagram. You also have a website. I wanted to mention though, on Instagram, you say the imagination is the eye of the soul, and the aura is the blueprint of our active soul qualities. So, can you
Hmm.
speak to that a little bit? I thought that was really
Yes.
interesting.
So Barbara Martin, she is one of the legends in being an aura educator.
Oh, okay.
And she, unfortunately, she's no longer
I see.
with us, but she was one that really talked about the aura being the blueprint of the soul's qualities.
Oh, okay.
And when I was thinking about what I was naming my business, I thought of, just the imagination, how
Yeah.
we get so disconnected from that as we grow older and we forget that childlike innocence of us. So I was my way of, honoring her and kind of bringing that creativity to life and combining the
Yeah.
two.
Nice. Very
Yes.
nice. Yeah, I wrote down her name. I'm going to look her up.
She does have an institute where she
Oh,
partnered
okay.
with other people as well to teach on the aura and different spiritual practices. So,
Okay.
big fan of her work
Yeah.
and the things that she teaches because there's a lot of teachers out there with a lot of different techniques that they use to teach about the aura and the
Yeah.
colors. And I'd love to read all about them because I just have a very big curiosity of like
Sure.
what the colors mean to them. But I really think that she teaches in a way that is very science-based.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that very much so because it goes so in depth with how
Yeah.
she relays the information.
So, do the colors correlate at all with like the colors of the chakra system, or is it like just individual? Like maybe red can mean something with one person, but mean something different with another person, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the aura, the different layers of the aura, they are connected to your chakras. So
Okay.
that's something to keep in mind
Yeah.
is so if you are wanting to change your aura, so say because you can always change it, it's very dynamic. If you are wanting to change your aura, say that I see a color in there that you don't necessarily like, and we are wanting to bring in a new color. First, we need to figure out if there is a chakra blocked because
Hmm.
drawing in that color will start at the chakra system. So we need to make sure that those chakras are moving. As
Yeah.
far as the colors and do they represent the same things as the chakras, it falls on a scale. So like
Sure.
a lemon yellow versus like a pale yellow. Yes, there can be some correlation. It just depends on the shading of the color.
Yeah. Yeah, when you had mentioned like a moody blue and like the different shades, of course, like more like the blue is more for like your throat chakra on that, but I don't know that it
Yes.
has, different shades of blue. So, yeah, I can see that where it might mean different things for, the different shades in that.
just to speak on that too, with the blue being in the throat chakra. So blue, just a couple of examples of what that can possibly mean.
Mm-hmm.
Blue is seen around a lot of healers,
Mm.
a lot of creative people. It's a very, very dynamic color. So a lot of the times, it can represent creative expression. It can represent, using your voice to help speak up for others. So
Yeah.
you see how there kind of is a correlation there. It just
Yeah.
depends on, what varying degree it falls under in the shading of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Let's talk about your book a little bit. So what's the title
Yes.
and where can people find it?
So it is called Stella the Jelly. And I actually got a download for this book when I was on my way to advocate for eating disorder funding. That's another big thing that I'm very passionate about is eating disorder recovery and advocating for others that are going through the process. I was driving past an area where I lived, and all of a sudden I started to feel a very wide range of emotions. And I couldn't understand what was happening because I'm like driving in like really bad traffic at like 8 a.m. trying to get into
Oh, yeah.
DC. It wasn't until I parked the car and started to relax a little bit that I realized that I was having an episode of PTSD.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I immediately thought back to the energetics of how my life a few years ago looked so completely different, and the energy that was surrounding me and how it affected my aura greatly.
Yeah.
And the thing with jellyfish is that they glow different colors.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a fun way to teach about the effects of being around others, how it can change your aura and not necessarily be the best for your emotional well-being. And
Yeah.
so it's a fictional story, but talking about the aura and how it has an effect on us and how it can change based on who we surround ourselves with. That is a true story. So I
Yeah.
tied the two together to educate kids on this topic and then also kind of give a little bit of information on auras as well. But
Yeah.
it's called Stella the Jelly and it's available on Amazon.
I love that. What a great way to explain that to children.
Yes.
Absolutely, because that's something that's hard to teach. And usually we go through some traumatic experiences before we learn that other people can have an effect on us. And just being in
Yes.
situations can have an effect on us. And that's a great way to show that. So, yeah, so I will put that link in the description below. So, everybody, please read the description. A lot of people don't. We'll also have your Instagram and you have TikTok and Linktree. And what's your website?
It's imaginativehaus.com.
Okay, okay, so we'll put that in there too. So what's the best place for people to reach you?
I would say, depending on what you are looking for, if you are just looking
Okay,
to have some fun, interact with me, TikTok is a great way. I'm on there as Aura a la mode. We do like
okay.
fashion, ice cream, auras. If you're just looking for some like
Just
fun
aura fun.
entertainment, yes, then TikTok is a great way to go. If you are looking for something a little bit more deeper as far as wanting to work with me one-on-one, do anything of that nature, then definitely my website.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, we'll have those down below too. Is there anything else that you would like to share or make sure that people know before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. So your aura and your energetic field, it's incredibly dynamic. It can change so quickly. And do realize that if you are feeling off, if you feel like everything is, going okay on the surface level, but something just feels a little bit off. pay attention to that because
Yeah.
that is more than likely something soul related that's trying to get your attention. And a lot
Yeah.
of the times we don't realize what that is. We can possibly block that. And, auras, they're not just, hey, we see a fun color. This is what it means. Like it
Right.
can be so dynamic as far as helping you to navigate your life path, things that you may not realize that would be great for your soul to dive into.
Yeah.
It may lead to creativity sparks. It may reconnect you with parts of yourself that have been dormant for quite some time. So, really, be mindful of how you're feeling. And if something tends to feel a little bit off, don't ignore that. Pay
Yeah.
attention to it and really kind of hone in on what that may mean for you, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, great message. Yeah, I think that there is a big misconception about auras out there. So I appreciate
Mhm.
you being on and appreciate you educating all of us. So you have a podcast as well.
I do. It's called Let's Talk Healing. One of the things that I used to do in a past life, like a few years ago, I used to remove tattoos
Oh,
from people. And it was just so interesting because I used to have conversations with people from all walks of life.
sure.
And oftentimes, we were doing something that was a little bit painful, but it was able to be, therapeutic and healing. And a lot of people would just, tell me their stories of things that they were going through in their life. And I thought, a podcast would be a great way for me to remember that feeling. And I have a lot of people on there from all different backgrounds, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that have gone through mental health struggles. We have a lot of spirituality coaches and in different fields of that nature. So it's really got a wide mix of different people in there sharing their stories, what has helped them.
Hmm.
And so if you're interested in any of that, it's on Spotify. It's called Let's Talk Healing. There's a picture of me in black and white, and that's where you go.
Okay. And we can put that link below as well. So yeah, we'll put all your links down there. And I'm sure that's also in your link tree and in your
Yes.
website. So we'll just put all those links and people can decide which way they want to find you and where they want to find you and what part of what you do they want to look at. So we'll put all that below. So thank you once again for being my guest. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited to check out your podcast and look for that book and all of that. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.